Well, this is how the NSX has been looking for the last, well, half a year or more. And I can't afford to fix the coolant leak, so I might take it down and sell it. We'll see how it goes.
So what happened? Well, sometime last summer I started smelling coolant. Not awesome. And it was right over the exhaust, so every time it dripped on the exhaust. The exhaust cooked the coolant and let off that really sickly sweet smell. Turns out the coolant was leaking from the rear head gasket. Also not awesome. So I drove the car less and less. The leak wasn't bad. It was not even a trickle, it was just a few drops here and there. But as time went on, it got a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. And so I stopped driving it altogether, because to repair it is an engine out repair, and I was quoted like, $6,000 parts and labor. Because once you're in there, you might as well do the timing belt, water pump, and some other stuff. Clutch, it was, the clutch wasn't great. So yeah, it was like $6,000, and I didn't have $6,000. So the car sat for quite a while. And then 2020 hit, and it screwed over a lot of people, including myself. Things started shutting down. I got laid off. The wife got laid off. All kinds of uncertainty. And here I had this second mortgage covered in plastic in my garage, and not knowing what was going to happen. It took like 2 months for the government cheese to kick in. And when it did, it was okay, but it's, temporary, short term. So we weren't really sure what was going to happen, how long this was going to last, and if I was going to get called back into the shop, because, a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but some people had the option to work remotely, which is cool because they get to, keep doing what they're doing. But estimating cars at a body shop, you can't really do that remotely, so I got laid off. And yeah, it was really tough. It was stressful. And so I decided to make a call. And as much as I love the car, I decided, it was time to let it go. It was always kind of, since we lost our business a few years back, right after we bought the car, it was always financially really tight. And statistics show that most marriages end because of financial hardships. And frankly, looking at it that way, it wasn't worth it to me to keep the car. Like I said, things have been tight for years, the last few years, and frankly, the only reason we still had the car is because my wife didn't want me to sell it, because she knew how much I wanted the car. And my son loves the car and didn't want me to sell it, but he's 7. So it was more about the wife. And by the way, if anybody knows of a Wife of the Year contest or a yearly thing like that I could submit my wife for, let me know in the comments, because she was willing to go get a second job just to cover the payment of the car. And as a man and as head of the household, I couldn't let her do that. What it boils down to, it was the car of my dreams. I've always wanted the car, but it was still a car. It's still a car. And so I decided that my family, and to potentially make our lives easier, especially not knowing what was going to happen in the months to come, I decided to sell the car. So right after things hit, I guess it was April, May, something like that. I don't remember. This whole year has been kind of a blur and not a good one. But I was going to take it, like you heard in the first clip, I was going to take it down to the dealership, and the owner of the dealership had always expressed interest in buying the car. So I took it down to him so he could, really go through it and look it over and make me an offer on the car. But he was not immune to what was going on either, because the dealership had basically just it wasn't making any money. So he had to lay off several people and kind of figure out what he was doing. So there was no way he could spend money on a car that he didn't really need. And so it sat there for a couple weeks. And then people started getting stimulated financially from the government, me included. And I decided to use that money towards actually fixing the car so I could sell it. Because selling it as is, when you're selling a car like that, you get tons of low ballers and tire kickers. And, well, frankly, I didn't want to deal with it. First thing somebody shopping for that kind of car hears that it's leaking coolant from the rear head gasket, they're just going to, you're lucky to get a half price offer. So I just didn't want to deal with it. So I called the dealership up and I said, hey, if you can take $1,000 off the quote, $500 off of parts, $500 off of labor, and we'll do it $5,000 out the door. I'll pull the trigger, and you guys can fix the car, because right now you're just standing around staring at each other anyway. You got nothing going on. And so the service manager talked to the parts manager, and they agreed, and they ordered parts and fixed the car. So they repaired the leaking rear head gasket, which was caused by the last person who rebuilt the motor before I bought it, over-tightened the bottom corner head bolt, and it was not torqued to proper specs. And so that's where the leak was coming from. That's why it was leaking. And so they fixed that. While it was out, I had them put a clutch in. I had them put timing belt service and stuff while it was out. So I did a lot more things than just the head gasket. But, seals and stuff like that, I had them replaced because everything's just right there. But everything got fixed and it was fine. And so I cleaned it up, polished it up, and a local guy here has a exotic car business, like selling consignment and stuff like that. So he put it up on consignment for me. And while it was on consignment, I kind of drove around and enjoyed it while I could. And then some guy in Texas decided he wanted it and bought it. And so now it's somewhere down in South Texas, down like 5-10 miles from the Mexican border. And the guy bought it cash. So it was bittersweet for sure. Because as you guys know, watching my channel, I've always wanted that car since I was a kid, since I was a teenager when it first came out. And went for a last group ride with some other fellow NSX owners, did a big loop through the mountains and stuff, and that was a lot of fun. And but the day that I dropped it off to get on the transport truck, it was a hard day. The wife was very upset. She's not a crier, but she was upset. And Luke totally lost it. He's hugging the back of the car, sobbing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But I think it was the right decision. Now, with the car being gone for several months now. Geez, when did I sell it? It was in the summer. It's been at least 4 months since the car's been gone. And, obviously now, out of sight, out of mind, it's a lot easier. The financial strain is way better. The car payment was like $700 a month. I bought the car for $51, and I put, what did I put down? I put a lot down, like $13,000 or something like that. I can't remember. But my payments were $700 a month, and I had it for auto pay, and I was paying $725 a month. And insurance, full coverage insurance, was actually really good. It was, I think, $60 a month or something like that through American National. They had some really good rates. And it was the same coverages I was getting anywhere else. And, the other carrier I was with, they were charging me like 4 or 5 times what American National quoted me and charged me for the same coverage. So that was, almost about $800 a month. And then with the money I made, because I sold the car for $58,500. So I actually made a few bucks on the car. I had it for 2.5 years. I think I put 15 or 18,000 miles on the car, and I sold it for $7,500 more than what I paid for it. And after I put the $5,000 into it, fixing it, it was, I had a couple bucks left over. And so I didn't do bad there, and that's good. I mean, how many cars can you say, you put miles on it and have it for years and then turn around and sell it for a profit? It hardly ever happens. It's very specific cars that you can pull that off with. So I'm very grateful for that, especially with all the uncertainty and stuff going on. Because when, everything started opening up again and we didn't have the COVID lockdown anymore, then people started burning down their cities, and yeah, it was just, I don't need to really tell you or break it down. You've been through the same thing I have. So just a really bizarre year this year, and I can't wait for it to be over. But like I was saying, out of sight, out of mind. So it's easier. The only time I really, really think about the car and miss the car at this point is when I'm out and somebody's driving their toy, and you see a car, it's real nice. It's, you can tell the owner's really proud of the car, how much time he spent, polishing the car to make it that shiny, or how it sounds, the exhaust, and, it's just, I miss the car. But what I really miss about the car the most is the opportunities and the experiences that it allowed me to have. It allowed me to meet some really great people, locally and around the country. It's one of my favorite things with the car was letting other, especially Honda Acura enthusiasts, drive the car. Like you saw a couple videos ago, I let Pete drive my car, and I really enjoyed that type of experience, because to me the car was meant to be enjoyed and experienced, and hardly anybody has the opportunity to experience or drive a car like that. So I would give random people rides all the time. I would be very selective with who I let drive the car, but I let several people drive the car because I enjoyed watching them experience it for the first time. And I'm gonna miss that type of stuff a lot. And who knows, right now, everything's kind of nuts, and but if I was able to get one before, I may be able to get one again in the future. That's my hope, because I did love the car, and I loved doing those type of things with the car, and watching people react to it. And I think I'm gonna miss that probably as much as actually driving the car, honestly. But I don't know, we'll see. So that led me to think about what I was going to do with the actual channel. What am I going to do with the NSX Experiment? And what I was going to do with the proceeds of the car was I was going to buy a nice sim racing rig, steering wheel, pedals, cockpit, and VR. And I was going to enjoy the NSX and other cars on racetracks around the world from my house. And so I was going to have the NSX Experiment virtually. But then we got contacted by the Department of Labor, and they wanted all of Josie's unemployment back. And over the summer, that was like $5,000, which was my budget for the sim ring, of course. And so we sent that $5,000 back to the state of Idaho. And then they said we could contest it. And the reason they wanted it back is because Josie works at the school, and they were like, well, she would have off during the summer anyway, and yada, yada, yada. But she was going to be working at the school doing the lunch program. But because at the time nobody thought to get anything in writing, we couldn't prove it, and they were like, nah, we want our $5,000 back. So there went the sim rig. And now granted, if I was gonna spend the $5,000 on a sim rig, did we really need the money? Not really, but everybody else was getting their money, but what are you gonna do? 2020. So we called some people and at the Department of Labor, and they were like, yeah, that's just the way it is. And so we couldn't formally contest it because we had nothing in writing. But then 3 weeks later, they sent us the money back. And so we called them again, and they were like, oh, well, they must have overruled it or overturned it. And so we had the money back. But at that point, we decided that we were just going to sit on the money and not do anything with it. And rightfully so, because 4 months went by, or 3 months, or whatever it was. They sent us another letter saying, yeah, we want the money back again. So whatever. So we got to send that back. Now, that being said, of course, after sitting on it for 4 months, in the last video, you saw the CNC machine cutting out the Hot Wheels logo. I decided to buy that machine from the guy. And exactly 1 week after I bought the machine, they wanted their money back. So, super awesome. But anyway, we've got the majority of the money. So we'll send it back to them again. So at this point, I can't even do the NSX experiment virtually. So that's pretty much that. I don't have anywhere else to go with it at this point in time. So it's going on the shelf until I can figure something else out or do something with it. But I still have the TSX. I still have projects in the garage. It's just the NSX part has gone away. And for those of you who are following along with that part of it, that's why there was such a huge gap in between videos and stuff like that. And yeah, you know, this is and I've been meaning to make this video for several months, but it's just, every time I even thought about doing it, it's just more depressing than anything else. And frankly, I just didn't feel like doing it. And, you know, it's even now, after several months have gone by, it's still hard. You know, life is full of challenges. And, you know, it's different when you're struggling and going through hardship, when it's something that came from a decision that you made, because, you know, you reap what you sow. But when it's coming from other sources outside of your control, it makes it extremely frustrating. But you just roll with it. You gotta. What other choice do you have? So here we are. But if something changes as far as the NSX side of things, or something comes up, different opportunities, I of course will update you guys and let you know. But for now, it's time to close the book. So thanks for following along for the NSX side. I hope you stick around for the TSX, some garage stuff, you know, Hot Wheels boards and other things. I'm actually thinking about incorporating the techniques I've developed for doing the Hot Wheels boards and starting to make furniture for my son, and see how that works out. Maybe I'll start building kids furniture or something. I don't know yet. So we're gonna play around with that and see if anything shakes loose. But thanks for stopping by, guys. I really appreciate it. You know, you guys hang in there, man. You guys are all going through the same thing as me in your own way. So one day at a time, brothers, sisters, hang tough.